And as the former chairman, I want to congratulate you on chairing the committee, and I know it's going to function extremely well. Mr. Lynch, in your written testimony, I want to read something, and I quote, "As HRSA was directing the OPTN to conduct the review of KYDA practices, an industry trade group, the Association of Oregon Procurement Organizations, publicized an open letter characterizing the ongoing effort to improve patient safety through enhanced oversight as a misinformation conspiracy campaign and concluded it is time for it to stop." And it was signed by more than 20 of the UNO staff. Would that letter constitute an attempt to obstruct HRSA's investigation?
The legal definition of obstruct, I don't believe I would be the
I'm not talking about a legal definition.
It was concerning to HRSA that numerous high-ranking members of the contractor and members of the OPTN board did sign that. And in the review committee that we directed the OPTN to undertake, we asked that nobody who was a signer to that be a part.
But basically, they were saying there's nothing to be seen here.
That's correct.
Okay, but that's not the first time you've had issues. Your written testimony also notes that historically HRSA did not receive complete, consistent, and at times accurate information regarding patient safety and complaints and concerns raised by the OPTN members and other stakeholders. So if there's any consistency here, it's a consistency in trying to shield what they were actually doing.
So one of the problems with having a single contractor environment is that if it's responsible for devising the policies, anything that's happening that's out of compliance with the policies could be seen as a failure of that first process.
But what I'm not trying to necessarily throw people under the bus, because I'm an organ donor. It's on my driver's license, and I realize the consequence of this. We had a lot of discussions about this before we ever had the hearing, but at the same time, we've got a responsibility to make sure that people know that this process will be conducted humanely, that it will be conducted legally, and that the people who are doing it have at the very minimal the best interest of the individual donor and the families that are involved. And from your own written testimony and from the report from HRSA, I mean, there's multiple instances here where it appears that they were, I use the word obstruct, but clearly impeding an effort to expose some major problems, particularly in Kentucky.
We have a plan which is already in place to prevent that in the future, which includes making sure that.
I understand, but what I'm trying to say is that we're trying to conduct an oversight hearing to come up with some solutions, which I think your efforts are excellent from what I've read, and that's exactly what you're trying to do. But I think there's got to be some accountability. There were clearly some things that happened that I think could constitute euthanasia. I mean, if the patient's dying, but they take the patient's organs before they die, that's euthanasia.
When we identify conduct that we find is at odds with the OPTN contractor's duty, we have notified them of the expectation to perform better.
Well, again, we had this discussion before we had this hearing, we want to make sure that the American public knows that if they are willing to become an organ donor, they're going to be treated humanely and legally, and that the family's wishes will be respected, and that you're not going to have these horrible situations like we've seen here in Kentucky and some other places, frankly. And my main concern is that you're able to do your oversight function without interference from anyone. I really am disappointed that 20 people signed this letter, which to me constitutes obstruction of a legitimate investigation, which the investigation uncovered some serious problems. And I just want to know if there's any consequences that anyone will be held responsible for how they conducted this. And going on reading through your testimony, there are other examples where you weren't given accurate information. I won't say that it was fraudulent, but it was clearly intended to not reach the conclusion that you needed to reach.
So when we identify a deficiency, we do communicate that in the contracting manner.
But what are the consequences?
As a non-contracting expert, there is a stepwise progression in noting a government contractor's ability to perform its functions effectively. The consequence that is within my direct scope is that we do not take these things on faith. We are trying to make sure that this is something that the government has the accountability. We have now the resources to get this done, so we double check the work.
My time has expired, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
The